So, Lionel pulled a Spinmaster. Back in the days when Spinmaster ran NASCAR Authentics, they would just drop random waves of cars on us, and it was up to the Diecast public, particularly me for whatever reason, to walk into your local store, your Walmart, your Meijer, your Toys R Us, rest in peace, to find the new wave and report on what cars were in it. Those days seemed to be in the past when Lionel took over the NASCAR Authentics brand. They have a website where you can very easily check out what waves are coming up and what cars are in them. They even announce them on their own YouTube channel. But today, I got some Spinmaster flashbacks because I walked into Walmart and what greeted me was quite a surprise. The Daytona 500 2018 edition, special edition, all of the editions, a wave of cars. But it wasn't just the four cars you see in front of you, which of course are the 2018 Jimmie Johnson Lowe's for Pros, the 2018 Brad Keselowski Discount Tire, the 2018 Austin Dillon Dow Chemical car, and the 2018 William Byron Axalta car. Now, these cars are from Wave 2, but there were also some choice cars from Wave 1 included in this special Daytona wave. Those cars were Joey Logano, also Kyle Busch, as well as Wave 1 cars, so you've got another opportunity to get these if you missed them, Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott. Now, I didn't pick up those cars for various reasons, mostly because I already own them. The trinkets are exactly the same for every single one of the cars. You either get a magnet or a card. We will be taking a look at both of those things. But seeing as these are essentially the most desirable cars from Wave 2 of the Lionel NASCAR Authentics, I guess this is kind of also a Wave 2 review. So let's not waste any more of your time. Let's take a look at the special 2018 Daytona 500 wave of the Lionel NASCAR Authentics. So the first car we're going to take a look at should really be a surprise to no one, considering it's the 2018 Daytona 500 wave of NASCAR Authentics. We are taking a look at Austin Dillon's number 3 Dow Chemical Camaro. Now, there's going to be a lot of confusion about this, so let me clear it up real quick. No, this isn't a race version. No, they didn't know that Austin Dillon was going to win, even though I'm sure there'll be lots of comments in the comment section that say, "Oh, it was rigged. It was rigged. Austin Dillon, they knew he was going to win, so they put him in that." No, I don't think so. I think it was just because they had this car ready to go. But certainly, I think this is going to be the most desirable car out of this special Daytona 500 wave because it's kind of a raced edition of the winner of the race, if that makes any sense. It's kind of funny as well because I actually have seen now this car in real life. When I went to Sebring, I also went down to Daytona Speedway. It had been my first time that I had been at the track, and went in the old Hall of Fame Museum, or whatever they call it, Motorsports Hall of Fame. And of course, that car was sitting in there with all the damage and scuff marks and everything. It was really kind of cool. Certainly a cool display. If you're ever in Daytona or around there, I would definitely suggest checking it out because it's an interesting thing. It's not just NASCAR either. It's like got literally everything. I mean, there's racing boats in there, for God's sakes. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. But yeah, I think this is going to be easily the most desirable car, despite the fact that it's not accurate, as sure many of you are pointing out. This comes with a magnet, of course, as well. Yeah, this is pretty much the difference in the packaging. You got that Daytona 500 special edition thing. Again, I had no idea this was coming. I don't think anybody did because I didn't see it on the Diecast news or anything. You don't actually get the wave preview on the back, so maybe they're going to do a second wave of these, or maybe they just didn't have the cars ready to go that they were going to put into this wave. I would say the other one that's going to be desirable from this wave is Alex Bowman, obviously because he was the pole sitter, and really the rest of the cars in this wave were pretty much all crashed. So there's really two. You got the pole sitter and the race winner in this wave. I'm starting to sell myself on the whole rigging thing, but anyway, let's get this thing open because it's kind of very timely. This was the one I decided to share on my social media, and that caused a big stink because everybody was like, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" Yeah, it's always, it's fun. This is kind of the fun thing about NASCAR Authentics. I kind of missed the random waves of things coming out. So let's take a closer look at Austin Dillon's Dow Chemical 3 car. So here you go, your Daytona 500 winner in the flesh. Well, kind of. There's certainly some inaccuracies. Obviously, you know, Lionel has to get their kind of renders in very early, and a lot of times there's changes to the paint scheme before they actually get out on track. The most notable thing is that 3 right on the side of the car. They did a black outline for the render, which obviously Lionel got, and once it got to the racetrack, it no longer had that outline. Kind of a small thing, but again, it's not 100% the Daytona 500 winner. This car is fairly interesting. I'm sure Lionel is happy that this car won the race, unlike last year's car, because they can actually make it in 164. Of course, you can sell chemicals to kids as long as it's Dow on the logo and not Monster. I guess that's how their logic works, but regardless, certainly looks quite good on the Camaro body. I'm definitely a fan of this, although it doesn't look like it's particularly the Toyota kind of dominance that they were expecting from this car, at least in the first few races of the NASCAR season. It's actually looked like Ford's kind of had the advantage, which has kind of been funny. It's almost like what I said in that Toyota defense video. Is like, hey, maybe everybody else is just going to step their game up. Looks like they did. So here you go. You've got your Daytona 500 livery. What am I talking about? Logo on a magnet. And then, of course, you got 2, 18, 18. That's fairly simple. And then you've got one race. Is that the Duel? That looks like Chase Elliott's new car. Wow. They must have pushed this out fast. If that's because that looks like the 9 car. Is that the 9? No, that's the 3. That's last year, obviously. Stupid David. Tricks are for kids. But anyway, let's take a closer look at this car. It's actually interesting. When you get up close to the real-life car, this splitter portion, at least for the super speedways, is way, way out. Like, they push the bumper way out. I don't know why they're allowed to do that, but it looks nothing like this in real life. It's got a really big rake. It's almost like a front wing. So I guess I can see why, you know, you always hear Kamikaze Games complaining about clean air in NASCAR. Well, once you actually get up close to one of these cars in real life, you can see just the amount of aerodynamics that go into, you know, what should be essentially a brick on wheels, which is a stock car, which is why the racing used to be so good, because they're bricks on wheels. It's a lot down more to the driver's skill and the ability of the crew chief to set a car up that's not necessarily trying to go fast, you know, and making it be able to go fast. Well, unfortunately now, it seems like the aerodynamics are such a big key, and certainly when you stand up close to one of these cars, you really see it for yourself, which is kind of interesting. Very plain car, honestly. Obviously, the lack of contingencies, that's going to be a big deal for the rest of the season and probably for the rest of the time at this point. But you also got Austin Dillon's name up there, as well as Lucas Oil, a few other sponsors. Yeah, this is a nice-looking car. Like I said, it's a bit plain. I'm still not a big fan of it's funny, they always used to say before the 3 car actually came back, and everybody was like, oh, we'll never bring the 3 car back, and they'll certainly never put it on a black car. But when you look at it this way, getting some Intimidator vibes, even though, obviously, you know, I'm probably opening myself up to the comments all telling me how Austin Dillon is not the Intimidator. I think we know that at this point. You know, you wrecked the Smithfield car once, you're not the Intimidator, I'm sorry. But regardless, he's the winner of the race, and I feel like this is going to be a pretty desirable version of this car, which is why I ripped it out of the package and destroyed its value. Let's move on to the next car, shall we? So it seems appropriate to move on from the guy that actually won the race to the guy that I had picked to win the race, Brad Keselowski in the Discount Tire Ford. This is another car that's not 100% accurate to the way it looked in the Daytona 500, and I will go over exactly what was different between that car and this one you're looking at. But unfortunately, I made the gross miscalculation when I chose the Daytona 500 winner, is that if the driver leads more than the last lap, they are definitely not going to win the Daytona 500, and they are going to get wrecked. You can only lead the last lap of the Daytona 500, which makes me wonder why they make it a 500-mile race in the first place. But anyway, this car comes with a trading card, which actually looks quite nice. It's very, it definitely gets your attention in the store when you see it. I don't know if that's really going to translate to the video. And I can't tell if this is just an optical illusion or if that's the Miller Lite deuce. But now looking at it closer, when you look at it far away, it kind of gives you the optical illusion that that's a blue 2. It's actually black, I can tell you. And then, of course, Brad Keselowski looks like almost the same color on the Austin Dillon. Might be a slight closer to orange. There's not much else to talk about on that one. Let's get this thing open, because this is essentially Brad Keselowski's primary scheme for this year, which is kind of interesting. I wonder what that card says on the back. Stay tuned. We'll take a look now. And this is also the first Ford I've bought for 2018, not counting the Ryan Blaney that I pre-ordered from Lionel Racing and they haven't sent me yet. Oh well. Brad Keselowski. Ah yes, the paint scheme that has become so synonymous with Cup leeches in the Xfinity Series has now moved on to the Cup Series. Well, that's a loud truck. I wonder if that picked up on the microphone. But anyway, yes, the Cup Leech Special, as you could say, is finally actually in the Cup Series. So I guess you could say, in some ways at least, the Xfinity Series works in creating new stars. Even if those stars are paint schemes, they finally can make it to the Cup Series. Your dreams are not crushed, folks. The Discount Tire scheme finally got called up to the Cup Series. It's actually quite interesting that Miller Lite is now no longer the primary sponsor. In fact, it may not even be the second most used sponsor on this 2-car for this year. I haven't really looked at the numbers, so I probably am wrong, but I feel like something like Auto Trader or Worth might even have more races at this point than Miller Lite, which is pretty crazy to us old folks who remember the Miller Lite car virtually being a staple every weekend, unless like Harley Davidson or somebody would come on and help sponsor it for whatever reason, whatever special promotion Miller was doing. So it's kind of weird that this is now kind of the primary Brad Keselowski scheme, but I guess if you've been paying a lot of attention to the Xfinity Series, it's pretty much his primary scheme on most Saturdays of the year, so it really doesn't change all that much. So here's the card. Hollow foil, pretty nice. Again, like I said, it definitely gives you like a metallic vibe, and it definitely looks a lot more valuable than it is in the store. I actually wondered if this was like a chase piece or something, but then I saw that several cars came with this. And here's the back of the card. Known as the Great American Race. Just very, very generic stuff talking about the 60th running of the Daytona 500. But that's pretty cool. Again, if you're a big Daytona buff, I think you're going to want at least one of those, I would imagine. And now here's the car. So there was a big tribute to, I can't remember exactly who it was. I think it was a crew member or somebody from Discount Tire. But they ran a big tribute not only on the hood, but on the rear of the car. Obviously, it didn't say tires.com back there. Yeah, so it's not the Daytona 500 paint scheme. I don't even think they ran this in the duel, if I'm not mistaken. It was the Discount Tire car, but it was still the tribute car. I really wish this car would have won the race, not only because it would have made me look smart, but it's a pretty nice looking paint scheme. You know, if we can't have the Miller Lite car anymore, it's certainly nice to have this car. And it also means that we can actually have 1/64 scale accurate-ish cars for Brad Keselowski, which we really have never had and virtually have never had throughout the history of the Miller Lite car, because you can't sell beer to kids unless it's the Daytona Day ad, in which case you can have some of that. What the heck is going on with this right here? That is so small that I cannot tell what's going on. It almost looks like maybe some of the suppliers that you can buy at Discount Tire, but that is so small. It's very hard to see. But yeah, I love the Ford bodies. Apparently they're changing them for next year, probably going to go with a Mustang, which is a little bit disappointing because I've always loved the Ford Fusion in NASCAR. I've always thought it was one of the better looking cars, just a clean look, and it seems to be fast this year. So maybe Ford might want to reconsider developing a new body because they seem to be pretty good on most of the tracks, but then again, that could just be Stewart-Haas Racing outdoing everybody. But who knows? Yeah, nice looking car. Shame to see it get smashed up in both of the races it was in. I know it got smashed up in the duel, and then it got smashed up in the 500. So yeah, not a very successful car. But then again, you could say that about 30 of the 40 starters in the Daytona 500. So it's not really all that unique. So let's talk about another car that got crashed a lot during the Speed Weeks 2018. Jimmie Johnson. So yes, Jimmie the Juggernaut himself. Now, what's interesting about this car versus the car that is supposedly in Wave 2, even though I've never seen Wave 2 and probably never will now that this Daytona 500 wave is out, is the fact that the packaging on the special edition is yellow. For whatever reason, they decided to go with the classic blue for Jimmie on this one. Who knows why? This comes with the magnet, so just FYI, I'm not going to show you the magnet up close again because you've already seen it earlier in this video, but let's get this bad boy out. Because this car seems to get mixed reviews. Not a lot of people like it. Some people do, some people don't. But this is the car that's going to go down in history, whether you like it or not, as the last primary Lowe's scheme for Jimmie Johnson, and possibly his last scheme ever. We'll see down the line. Now, obviously, we're all pretty much expecting that for Darlington and possibly Homestead, we're going to get the full Dale Jr. treatment for Jimmie Johnson with Lowe's, in that we're going to get all the classic schemes, at least one way or the other, before the end of this year, unless Lowe's goes full Target and just stops caring entirely, which is possible. We've seen that happen with sponsors before. But considering the history with Jimmie Johnson and Lowe's, you would think that maybe they would go all out. But then again, you think about the history of Target and Ganassi, and they really only kind of went all out for IndyCar and then completely didn't care about NASCAR the last year that they were in their contract. So who knows? It's always a mixed bag with sponsors and whether or not they feel a lot of loyalty to the brand that they are leaving. I don't know if Lowe's actually had like a CEO switch. I know that was the case with iZod, with Verizon, with Target, I think with Sprint as well. A lot of times when you get that CEO change, your racing sponsorships are the first thing to go. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But who knows? It could just be, again, that whole return on investment thing that we always talk about when it comes to racing, and particularly these days with NASCAR. You gotta wonder, what is Lowe's finding value? Who knows? It's going to be one of those things that people are going to ask and probably not going to have a whole lot of answers to, at least for a while. I will say this diecast looks a heck of a lot better in person than it does kind of in the pictures. Lowe's for Pros, obviously, not the most inspiring scheme, but the fluorescent, almost Menards, that's ironic to say about a Lowe's car, yellow on this car, definitely really pops. I will say Lionel did a great job representing that on this car, and of course you get that on the splitter as well. So it just looks really nice. Again, man, 3 contingencies, good lord. Yeah, this, and then you get the metal flake paint. It makes me wonder why they didn't do this for Chase's car. Why, like, this kind of metal flake is fine. It's not like sparkly makeup like the Chase car was, but whatever. And I also checked the Chase car in this wave. It's exactly the same as the first wave car. I was going to buy it if it was different in review for everybody, but it was exactly the same. So yeah, Jimmie Johnson did not have a very good speed weeks, to say the least. He crashed every single time he came out on the track, outside of his qualifying run, which is single car and like the most boring thing ever because of restrictor plates. Yeah, restrictor plate single car for qualifying, it's like, put me to sleep. But yeah, that was the one time he didn't crash, so I'm guessing Jimmie Johnson likes restrictor plate single car qualifying because there's nobody who can wreck him at that point. So yeah, not a very successful car, at least at the Daytona 500, but certainly I think a lot of people are going to be wanting to pick it up because of the fact that it's new. Speaking of, well, new-ish, I guess a new body, this is going to be a pretty popular car up next, I think. So like Jimmie's car in wave number 2, this Daytona 500 packaging for William Byron's car is a little bit different. Again, we're kind of going with the red, but on the official wave 2 packaging, they actually take the yellow from the 24 and make that the background color. Just an interesting variation. It's not really all that much to talk about, but this is certainly a familiar paint scheme for fans of Jeff Gordon or people who have been around NASCAR for at least 3 years. You will have seen this before. However, not on the Camaro body, and I will say, of the Hendrick paint schemes for this year, this one's the best. It's also a throwback technically, so that would explain why it's the best. Ooh. Anyway, let's get this thing out of the box, because a lot of people, I think, are going to be interested in it for obvious reasons, not just because of the fact that it's almost pretty much might as well be a Jeff Gordon throwback, but it's also a new young star, and it's a Hendrick car, meaning everybody wants the Hendrick cars one way or the other. Iconic would be the word I would use to describe this, and let's take a closer look at it. So yeah, if you squint to this thing, you're going to see DuPont and Jeff Gordon's name on it, but once you put your eyes in focus, you see that it's William Byron and an Axalta Camaro. But man, this thing looks fantastic. This is they did a fantastic job. The Axalta cars always look pretty good, let's be honest, but certainly when you put that 24 with the flames, you start getting a little bit of that nostalgia going, certainly for the golden era of NASCAR and the golden era of some of Jeff Gordon's most successful things. It's kind of funny, for kind of younger fans, the flame paint scheme is almost more iconic than the rainbow. It's kind of hard to believe as, you know, a 24-year-old like I am, but, oh, that's ironic. But, yeah, a lot of people think the flames, or associate the flames more with Jeff Gordon than the rainbow. So, again, this is a super iconic car. I kind of hope they do the Alex Bowman version of this as well. He was also sponsored by Axalta, I believe, at the Atlanta round, and that car looked fantastic. It's had the same base coat as this, same base colors, but they were rearranged in quite an interesting way. I really like that car. Unfortunately, William Byron really has not had the best season right now. I kind of jokingly, in one of the Kyle Cat videos, called him the next Casey Atwood. I didn't really mean it or really want it to be that way, but I don't think he's finished on the... Now, I'm gonna get some flack because I'm probably got this wrong, but I don't think he's finished on the lead lap once this year. And I don't think a lot of people have mentioned that. So, yeah, he's not had the best season so far. It's partially, I think, to blame Hendrick. They clearly do not have a very good grasp on the Camaros right now. It seems like almost RCR is the team with the best grasp on them at the moment. It seems like they're usually pretty fast, but for whatever reason, yeah, the old Hendrick cars outside of Chase Elliott. I think Chase Elliott's kind of figured it out. But then again, we've heard some things like that Hendrick gives him super preferential treatment in terms of the equipment he gets. So who knows? Even if Chase is getting the best cars, he's not able to quite win races yet. So yeah, I think Hendrick's kind of missing the boat a little bit on this new Camaro body. They haven't quite figured out all the secrets to it. But I'll tell you what's not secret is this thing looks freaking fantastic. I know there was a paint blemish up there. I guess it fell off. So I was going to complain about that, but it's gone. Chase Elliott Chase Elliott used to drive the 24, David. William Byron in the Daytona 500 crashed. I think he actually did finish the race. I feel like he wasn't collected in one of the big ones. He actually was the guy who caused the crash at the end of the race, he was the guy who started all the BS happening. Let's just put it that way. His yellow was the thing that packed the field up, and then the wreck happened with all the small teams that made my heart ache. And then of course the finish happened, and we all know how that all went. But yeah, this is fantastic, and kind of interesting about the splitter is that half of it's yellow and half of it's blue, which is kind of fun to look at. Yeah, this is a quality piece right here. There's nothing else to say about it. Nothing. I mean, it's fantastic. Easily my favorite release for NASCAR Diecast this year. I'll have to compare it to some of the ones I really like that are coming out later, like Bubba Wallace and Ryan Blaney. But right now, ooh, baby, this is a hot tamale. So let's take a look at all four of these cars that I took a look at from Wave 2 and the Daytona 500 Wave, and I'll give some final thoughts. So yeah, some pretty awesome looking stuff here, I have to say. I mean, you probably heard it in my voice, but that friggin' William Byron car just takes the cake. It's kind of easily the star of the show in terms of the diecast in this wave in particular, but I definitely think that the Austin Dillon car is going to be kind of the star ultimately and the thing that a lot of people are after, just because it's kind of a raced version before we get the raced version probably, 6 months from now, unfortunately, just kind of the way things go. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button on it and leave me a comment down below what your favorite car from this wave is. Remember, I got it at Walmart, so if you're asking me about that, I've said it like 3 times in this video. So it's your problem if you don't know where I got it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video.